The Night Caller. I worked the graveyard shift at a small town radio station, the kind of place where the paint on the walls hums from old wiring and the only light comes from that flickering red on-air sign. Midnight to 4 a.m. No one really listens at that hour, and that's what I liked about it. Just me, my mug of bitter coffee, and the low hum of empty airwaves. I'd been hosting Midnight Whispers for 3 years. It wasn't a real show, more of a filler segment for the insomniacs and truckers who tuned in out of boredom. I'd play old jazz records, sometimes read from listener letters, and fill the silence with soft conversation about nothing. I liked it that way, the quiet, the control. But sometimes, when the static grew too thick between tracks, I'd swear I heard something else underneath, like breathing. Slow, deliberate, almost in rhythm with the turntable. I used to laugh it off. Told myself it was feedback or my imagination, both equally tired. Then one night, the phone rang. Nothing unusual. The studio line sometimes lit up when drunks wanted to request Elvis or confess their loneliness to a stranger. But when I picked it up, the voice didn't slur. It whispered. Calm, precise. Good evening, Ethan. I froze. No one on air knew my real name. On radio, I was Jack Midnight. Ethan was buried under that, under layers of anonymity and old coffee stains. Who is this? I asked, trying to sound amused, like it was a prank. The caller didn't answer, just kept breathing softly. Then, you left your kitchen light on. My heart stalled, because I had, and I was 30 miles from home. The line went dead. For the rest of the night, every time the phone buzzed, I let it ring. At first, I told myself it was a prank, a sick joke maybe, the kind of thing bored kids did for a thrill on a Thursday night. But then the voice spoke again, calm, almost polite, listing my address, my mother's name, the color of my shirt, each detail sharper than the last. I laughed, nervously, tried to sound amused, professional. Nice trick, pal, I said into the mic, even though I'd already cut the feed. I wanted to believe someone from the station was playing with me. Maybe Kyle from Daytime had stayed late. Maybe, except the studio doors were locked from the inside. And when I checked the caller ID, it didn't show a number, just unknown frequency. Like the call hadn't come through a phone line at all. That was when I started to sweat. The voice whispered, "Don't turn around." I didn't. Not because I was brave, but because something in the tone, something final, told me that if I did, I'd see something I couldn't unsee. Then silence. The line went dead, and for the first time in my career, I killed the broadcast early. Sat there staring at the empty phone, waiting for it to ring again. It did. Every night after that. Always at midnight. Sometimes it was just the sound of breathing, slow, measured, like whoever it was enjoyed being heard. Sometimes a chuckle, low and wet, like the caller had water in their throat. And once I heard my own voice, repeating what I'd said seconds earlier. "You're listening to Midnight Whispers," it said. "You're listening to Midnight Whispers." Over and over. A perfect echo, but twisted, deeper, hollow, like it came from inside the walls. I tore the headphones off and the voice kept playing, even though I'd muted the mic. That night, when I left, the hallway lights flickered, and in the reflection of the control room window, I swear I saw a shadow, tall, still, standing right behind my chair. The next morning, I called the phone company. They said the studio line had been disconnected for months, but that couldn't be true, because at exactly midnight, it rang again. One night I snapped. I couldn't take it anymore. The calls, the whispers, the feeling that something was crawling just beyond the static. I cut the playlist mid-song, muted the mic, and slammed the receiver to my ear. "Who are you?" I shouted. "What do you want?" For a moment, nothing. Then that sound again, a low chuckle, deep, wet, wrong. It didn't come from the receiver this time. It came from behind me. The studio speakers, the ones connected only to my microphone, crackled to life with that same voice whispering through the empty air. "I'm already on air." Every red light in the room blinked on at once. The on-air sign, the phone line, even the auxiliary monitor. All glowing, all humming. Like the whole station was breathing. I turned slowly toward the broadcast screen, expecting static. But it wasn't static. It was me, my face, my voice. But the mouth moved before I spoke. The version of me on screen grinned wide, eyes dark and gleaming, and said words I hadn't yet formed. "Don't turn around, Ethan." My chest tightened. That same phrase, the one from the first call. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I tried to kill the feed, hitting every button on the console. Nothing worked. The system wouldn't respond. It was like the equipment had a will of its own. Then I noticed something worse. Outside the soundproof glass in the dim hallway, another figure stood, motionless. Same height, same build, same shirt, watching me. I froze. The monitor version of me smiled wider, almost tearing at the edges. See? I told you I was here. The glass began to fog from his side. I backed up, heart hammering, fumbling for the door, but the lock turned on its own. Click. He lifted a hand on the screen, slowly, deliberately. And then, the power died. Every light went out except the faint red glow of the on-air sign. I stood there in the dark, the echo of my own voice still humming through the speakers. You're listening to Midnight Whispers. Only this time, I wasn't the one saying it. I bolted out of the booth, stumbling into the corridor like I just surfaced from underwater. Every monitor lining the hallway flashed static, not white noise, but faces. My face. Hundreds of flickering reflections, each frozen in a different expression, grinning, blinking, whispering. I yanked every cable I could reach, slammed the main power breaker, and waited for the hum of the station to die. But the on-air light above the booth didn't fade. It stayed red, glowing in that same slow pulse like a heartbeat. When dawn finally came, I sat in the parking lot with my head against the steering wheel, trying to convince myself I hadn't lost my mind. Maybe sleep deprivation, maybe stress. But when the morning tech team arrived, their faces told me otherwise. Ethan, one of them said, pale and trembling, "What the hell did you broadcast last night?" I didn't understand at first. Then they showed me the system logs, a 3-hour live recording under my credentials. I'd signed off at midnight, but the file showed continuous transmission until sunrise. It wasn't music, it was laughter. Low, overlapping laughter, sometimes mine, sometimes something else. And beneath it, a whisper looping endlessly, "Don't turn around." They said the broadcast went out to every frequency in the county. I tried to play it off, said it must have been a glitch, a corrupted feed. But inside, I knew better. The station had heard him, or it. After that night, small things started changing. My recorded intros glitched during replay, my voice deeper, slower, almost mocking. When I spoke live, the delay monitors sometimes picked up a tone I didn't make. One night, I caught the playback of my own show and froze. My voice laughed at something I hadn't said. The station manager told me to take a few days off, rest, clear my head. But every time I closed my eyes, I could still hear that faint static, whispering, repeating, "You're listening to Midnight Whispers." And sometimes, just before I drifted off, I'd swear I heard another line layered beneath it, soft, almost tender. I never hung up. I quit the job a week later, left everything, the booth, the records, the night shift, moved 2 towns over, took a day job at a community station where the only thing that whispered was the AC unit. I told myself it was behind me, that what happened in that room was just exhaustion and stress, that it couldn't follow me through daylight. But the recordings did. The first one appeared a few nights after I moved. My phone buzzed at exactly midnight, a file labeled live feed. No sender, no source, just the timestamp. I pressed play. It was my old intro. The same static hum, the same background crackle of the booth. My voice, cheerful, calm, saying the words I'd said hundreds of times, "You're listening to Midnight Whispers." Then faintly over the hiss came that laugh. That same dry, mocking laugh that didn't belong to me. The next night, another file. Same time, same title. But the message changed. "You left the light on again, Ethan." I checked my apartment, every bulb dark. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the phone. Now it's every night, midnight sharp. My name whispered through a frequency no one else can trace. I've changed numbers, changed devices. It doesn't matter. The voice always finds the signal. I've thought about going back to the old station, maybe to face it, to end whatever this is. But every time I picture walking through that hallway, I hear that sound again, the low hum, the quiet breath before the laugh. And I remember the last thing the voice ever said before the feed went dead. "You're never off air." Sometimes when I drive past empty lots or catch static between stations, I think I can still hear him, talking, waiting, broadcasting through whatever's left of me. So if you ever tune into the late night dial and hear my voice, do me a favor. Don't answer the call. If you enjoyed The Night Caller, please like this video, It helps others discover these stories. Subscribe for daily dark tales and mysteries that linger long after the screen fades. Share it with someone who loves a good scare. Thank you for listening. There's another story waiting on your screen. I'll see you back tomorrow.